We just had college football week 8, and as I step back and look at everything that happened, there are 8 games I want to talk about. I also, by the way, at the end of this topic, I've got an idea. It's called the College Football Week 8 Hall of Shame, where I share 2 things that are really, really bad and frustrating that happened in moments from Saturday. Okay, game number 1, the craziest game this weekend was that unranked Illinois beat number 7 ranked Penn State 20-18 in not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 9 overtimes. It was the most overtimes ever played in a college football FBS level game. And what this game really did for me, I'm going to talk about the NFL for a moment, because this game made me want the NFL to copy the college football overtime rules. This is the new rule this year, is for the first 2 overtimes, every team gets the ball at the 25-yard line, 1st and 10, with a chance to score. Now, once the game gets to overtime number 3, things will change a little bit, and the ball gets put on the 3-yard line, and each team will run 2-point conversions until someone wins, and someone has more points. And, 9 overtimes is a bit misleading when you talk about Illinois versus Penn State, because overtime number 3 through overtime number 9, in those 7 overtime periods, a total of 14 plays were run. I mean, it's very little. 7 by each team from the 3-yard line. Every team had a shot. If you score, I get a chance to respond. I loved it. It was exciting. It was relatively short, actually. I was watching, I pulled up, usually I skip ahead. I didn't skip ahead very much. I was just watching the game straight through because it was very, very rapid between overtime number 3 and overtime number 9, and the game came to a close. And by the way, as fewer plays, less opportunities for guys to get hurt is what that means. And the best thing is that when Penn State lost this game, usually in the NFL, often when a team wins in an overtime game, people are upset because someone got the ball first, they went down, they scored a touchdown, and one team did not get an opportunity to respond. Nobody said anything like that when Penn State lost. No one said, oh, Penn State didn't get a real shot to win, because both teams had legitimate, real opportunities to win multiple times. And I think that makes the loss a little bit easier to accept if you're a fan of Penn State. Because, again, both teams dropped what would have been the game-winning score. And in this game, multiple times that happened where Penn State had one, Illinois had one. It was like, man, this is really kind of frustrating watching 2 teams fail at scoring 2-point conversions over and over and over again. And I wonder, is the NFL maybe just afraid of the optics of copying college football? Well, if we copy them, are they afraid it's admitting that college football is better? It's well, it's okay to say that other league has a really good idea. Maybe it's an ego thing, but I think from an owner's standpoint, it's exciting to have that kind of overtime with the 2-point conversions deciding things after a bit. It's also short, so you don't need to pay players even more. It's relatively quick to solve that problem. So I really want the NFL to steal this type of overtime with the 2-point. Hey, try a little bit. If it doesn't work, let's do 2-point conversions. I just hate having ties. I really, really despise when 2 NFL teams tie. I think it's wrong and silly. And I have more to say. Write in on Patreon if you want me to break down further my ideas about the NFL adopting a college football style overtime. Now, here's a crazy reality in this Penn State-Illinois football game. Illinois ran the ball 67 times for 357 yards. And Illinois had 38 passing yards in a game that went to 9 overtimes. Here's the final stat line for the winning quarterback in this game. Art Sitkowski at Illinois was 8 for 19 passing with 38 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Illinois running back Chase Brown had 33 carries for 223 yards and a touchdown. And their other running back, Joshua McCray, had 24 carries for 142 yards. Ridiculous. Still, it's a big win. Unranked Illinois beating number 7 Penn State. This came right after, earlier in the week, Illinois head coach Brett Bielema made comments calling out specifically his offensive line and his quarterbacks. He seemed to basically say, hey, don't blame me, the former coach of Illinois, and that former coaching staff failed at recruiting and were terrible at player development. So he pointed the finger at the old coaching staff and said, don't blame me for the struggles we're having this year. And clearly there's a disconnect between how the players feel and then how the way the media covered what Brett Bielema said, because it seemed like the way people wrote about it, like Brett Bielema threw his players under the bus. And you would expect if the players were thrown under the bus, they would mutiny and would not have beat a number 7 team in the nation. But Brett Bielema's team on Saturday fought hard, and they won. So I wonder what's really happening. I see all this reporting. I did listen to what he said, but it was like, I wonder if behind closed doors at Illinois, there's more going on, because I was surprised at how hard and how well Illinois fought, given the fact that their coach is supposed to hate them all. So I'm like, well, is there a disconnect between the media and the way the players feel? Probably. That often does happen. Now, the only other thing I want to say about this game is that Penn State has a stud receiver, Jahan Dotson. And Jahan Dotson is a jump ball machine. And I find it shocking that Penn State had 7 plays from the 3-yard line, and none of them were a jump ball to Jahan Dotson. I'm like, why are we not giving him at least one target? It was weird. You go through all these overtime periods, and Jahan Dotson never gets a fade ball in the end zone. I'm like, well, why? Well, it was very weird to me. I feel like a big missed opportunity, and certainly Penn State had opportunities to win. They get nothing to blame but themselves. But that was a weird one. I'm like, why are we not calling that play? Now, game number 2, Clemson at number 23 ranked Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh won. They beat Clemson 27-17. Pitt quarterback Kenny Pickett played great. I'm still not sure where he stands as far as the NFL. Like, Kenny Pickett is a guy that I really can't wait to dive into his film in February. I just haven't watched him play enough. I've watched him play a couple times, and I like what I've seen. I can't really tell, though. Is he a first-round pick, a second-round pick, maybe a third-round pick? Like, I just haven't watched enough of him playing to really make a decision there. But, man, it seems like from what the little I've seen, it appears like Kenny Pickett has mastered the level of college football. Like, I mean, he seems to have habits and preparation, and like, he handles big moments like a pro. He's not nervous. He enjoys the moment. He had a great throw rolling to his right into the end zone for a touchdown. I was like, oh man, it's a massive throw against Clemson. And Pitt currently, by the way, is 6-1. They're doing very well, having a great year. Kenny Pickett is awesome. Now, Clemson is 4-3, and they already have 3 losses this year in 7 games. Clemson has not lost 3 games since they went 10-3 in 2014. This is a bad, down year for Clemson. And it may feel like, I guess I feel like there's going to be more losses likely for Clemson. Like, I look at the horizon and I go, Clemson's in bad shape. DJ Uiagalelei, their quarterback, got benched for a while during this game. He threw a pick 6 on the very first drive of the third quarter, tried to make a shovel pass happen, got picked off, went for a touchdown. Then they benched him. And then eventually, once they realized the backup quarterback wasn't going to do anything either, they just put DJ Uiagalelei back in the game. DJ finished the game 12 for 25 passing with 128 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He did run for a touchdown, so that's some positive stuff there. But Clemson fans, I think, first of all, they need to relax with this whole notion of, we need to fire coaches. They're ready to fire Tony Elliott. I'm like, relax, guys. This is silly. My perspective on Clemson is that they're trying to blame a coach when I think that DJ is the bust here. DJ, when I watch him, DJ Uiagalelei, I like the guy, but he makes bad decisions. He looks unprepared. He throws a terrible ball. Like, he does not throw a pretty ball. And that doesn't matter that much, I guess, as long as the ball gets there. But the amount of times I've watched DJ just be completely inaccurate, throw a terrible ball that's not a spiral, I'm like, ugh. It's hard to watch as a former quarterback. And I think really the thing in Clemson is they just need to recruit a better quarterback. Like, either that or DJ just needs to magically get way, way better next year. But I don't see that happening. And there's no progression going on for DJ. So you can blame the coaching staff if you want. I currently, based on what, because Clemson's won a lot in the past. Like, Tony Elliott's not a terrible offensive coordinator. I just think DJ is the problem. He I think, is a guy who, he got a lot of the sponsorships before the year started, and I think his head got a little bit big, and he looks like a guy who isn't prepared, and that's frustrating but true. Now, game number 3 is this. Number 6 ranked Michigan beat Northwestern 33-7. And, oh man, the result of this game is that Michigan is now 7-0. So is their rival, Michigan State. And next week, that means we have a battle of two unbeaten teams, Michigan against Michigan State, fighting for the Paul Bunyan Trophy. I'm like, yes! Oh, I've been talking about this for weeks, hoping like, are we gonna get it? Is that gonna happen? Are we gonna get a battle of unbeatens in the Paul Bunyan Trophy game? We are. And then I wonder, well, what if either Michigan or Michigan State goes undefeated the rest of the year? Because after the Paul Bunyan Trophy game, then they got to beat, both of them play Penn State and Ohio State later in the year. It's not entirely impossible that one of them could beat Michigan or Michigan State, then beat Penn State and Ohio State. It'd be really crazy and cool if one of the Michigan teams made it into the college football playoff. I'm rooting for that. I want a change of scenery. I like when different teams are represented and represent their league in the college football playoff. I like both coaches. I like Mel Tucker. I like Jim Harbaugh. I just think fun stuff is brewing in Michigan. And, man, we have a really massive game next weekend, Michigan against Michigan State. Okay, number 2 ranked Cincinnati beat unranked Navy 27-20, excuse me. They won by 7 points, 27-20. So Cincinnati remains unbeaten, but only winning by 7 points is not great when you're playing an unranked Navy team. Now, I admit the game should not have been this close, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but you do have to realize that playing Navy is a unique challenge in college football because they run a triple option flex bone offense, meaning that basically they run the veer and triple option, and it's a different style of offense that Cincinnati's not going to play against again the rest of the year. So it's tough to prepare for because it's so unique and different than anything else in college football. And also, remember, maybe not remember, but let me tell you, Cincinnati led at one point in the fourth quarter, 27-10, going into the beginning of that quarter. So Cincinnati had a big lead. It just got cut short by Navy, making progress and closing down that lead, making it 27-20 by the end. I don't know. I'm curious how the rankings reflect the fact that Cincinnati barely beat Navy next, when the rankings come out on Monday. I'm curious. I don't know what's going to happen there. Also, I'm really curious what the NFL thinks of Cincinnati quarterback Desmond Ridder. He's a good athlete, a guy who can throw. I think that Desmond Ridder isn't maximizing his arm strength. I think I look at his ability to throw the ball, I'm like, there's his frame with a bit of work could drive the ball with a lot more velocity downfield. So I think he wants to work with a better quarterback coach in the offseason. But I just wonder if someone's going to look at Desmond Ridder, someone in the NFL will see that there's a guy with potential that could be developed. And I don't know if he will. He's definitely a guy there's something there with Desmond Ridder. He does a lot of stuff I like, and I'm curious if any NFL teams see potential there that I see with Desmond Ridder. Now, Navy is 1-6. They're a 1-win football team. A 7-point win over Navy is really, really not good for Cincinnati. It makes me wonder if Oklahoma will leapfrog Cincinnati in the rankings. Although I will say, number 3 Oklahoma barely beat a 1-win Kansas team as well. So neither team played that great, Oklahoma or Cincinnati, this weekend. Kansas is awful, yet they really, really challenged Oklahoma. Like, Kansas led 17-14 at the start of the fourth quarter in this football game. Oklahoma is losing to Kansas to start the fourth quarter. Like, Oklahoma is 8-0 right now, but they've had some really ugly and unconvincing wins so far this year. And I just wonder if people are going to... what happens in the rankings this Monday? Does Oklahoma leapfrog Cincinnati? I'm really curious to see what happens there. I saw a lot of people being critical of Oklahoma quarterback Caleb Williams. Remember, OU benched Spencer Rattler against Texas, and then Caleb Williams has been the starting quarterback there ever since. And really what I learned from this game and seeing people criticize Caleb Williams is that it reinforced the idea to me that people will criticize anyone and anything. Like, hey, cute puppies, people will probably find a reason to hate on that too. It's crazy to me. And I think the reality is Oklahoma fans were just a little bit alarmed and scared, feeling like they thought they might lose to Kansas. But Caleb Williams was 15 for 20 passing for 178 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, the dude only had 5 incomplete passes in this football game. It's like, well, that's a bit drastic to say he's playing terrible. He also ran the ball 8 times for 70 yards and a touchdown. He had a big, long touchdown run on 4th and 3. He also had a super clutch heads-up play. At 4th and 1, Oklahoma running back Kennedy Brooks got stopped in the backfield, and Caleb Williams made a crazy play, something I've never seen before at any level of football. Caleb Williams took the ball out of his running back's hands, basically stripping his own teammate, and then took the ball and ran for the first down himself. I'm like, oh, I've never seen that. And some people said that Kennedy Brooks should have been called down due to a lack of forward progress, and I understand that argument. Like, that makes sense to me. But I'm also really glad they let that play out, because the result, what we got was Caleb Williams taking the ball, making a really unique and exciting play. And that's why I watch football. I like when unique, interesting, different, exciting things happen. And it was fun to watch that play get made by Caleb Williams. By the way, in this game, Robert Griffin III was doing color commentary. And he was outstanding as an analyst. I love his energy. I love his insight. Clearly, like, RG3 was having a good old time, just enjoying the game of football, enjoying talking about it on a broadcast. And both RG3 and then Dan Orlovsky, the former Lions quarterback, I think he works on, is it NFL Live? Probably. One of those shows. Like, Dan Orlovsky, though, doing college football broadcast is fantastic. I don't think he's getting the credit he deserves. And I look at both RG3 and Dan Orlovsky are rising stars in the world of color commentary in the broadcast booth. They're great analysts, and both did a great job this weekend calling college football games. Now, number 6, Wake Forest beat Army 70-56. And it's crazy. Wake Forest had a crazy low time of possession. Wake Forest had the ball basically for 17 minutes, the entire game. And in 17 minutes, they put up 70 points. 7-0. That's something like 4 points a minute. That's unbelievable. And I really, really like Wake Forest quarterback Sam Hartman. I don't know if he's an NFL quarterback, although I would love to see the Panthers sign him, maybe as a free agent, depending on if he gets drafted or not. But Sam Hartman's style actually really, really reminds me of Sam Darnold. I see a lot of similarities in the way they play. And in this game, Sam Hartman was 23 for 29 with 458 yards passing, 5 touchdowns throwing. He also ran for a touchdown. Sam Hartman is a baller, man. I love watching the guy play. By the way, Wake Forest is 7-0. Like, Wake Forest is undefeated 7 games into the year. Currently, they are the highest ranking ACC team. And they've got some interesting games ahead. They play at North Carolina. They play NC State. On November 20th, Sam Hartman and Wake Forest go on the road at Clemson. I'm really excited for that game. I'm just really, really curious. Where does Wake Forest end up by the end of the year? I think they have a shot to... I don't know, man. I'm really fascinated. I like the idea of Wake Forest being good. That's so rare and interesting to me, and I would love to see them finish the year off strong with like an undefeated season or a 1-win or a 1-loss or 2-loss season. If they could beat Clemson, that'd be like so exciting and cool. And next week, again, North Carolina against, and Sam Howell against Wake Forest and NC State. Sorry, Wake Forest and Sam Hartman. NC State is not a name. How did that happen to me? It's 4 a.m. Give me a break. But I'm really excited to watch this game next weekend. And Wake Forest is a team I would have never thought would be on my radar 7 games into the college football season. But right now they are. They're playing very well, and I like what they got going on with the Demon Deacons. Now, unranked Wisconsin beat number 25 Purdue. Wisconsin won 30-13. And I thought this might happen. Purdue is coming off of a really big emotional win over a number 2 ranked team, Iowa, last week. And I talked about, my preview for college football week 8. I was like, well, this could happen. And Purdue quarterback Aiden O'Connell, who had a fantastic game last week against Iowa. Like, he was lights out last week. Had a great game to follow up that good performance. Except, no, he didn't. Aiden O'Connell had 3 interceptions. He played horrible. They actually benched him at one point. Then the backup quarterback came in and had a turnover. Purdue had 5 turnovers in this game. And the only touchdowns, by the way, that Purdue had in this football game came as a result of Wisconsin fumbling. So it was a terrible game for Purdue. They got dominated. And here's what's crazy to me. Wisconsin did not even try to throw the ball in this game. Their quarterback, Graham Mertz, was 5 for 8 with 52 yards passing in this football game. Graham Mertz handed off the ball 47 times in this game. Wisconsin ran the ball for 290 yards. They had two running backs, both that ran for over 140 yards. And Brett Bielema, the coach at Illinois, used to coach at Wisconsin. And it's pretty funny, man. Both Illinois and Wisconsin are not even trying to throw the ball. They've just given up on throwing the ball completely. Both of them had drives where they did not even throw a pass during this game, the entire drive. And I cannot believe that both Illinois and Wisconsin won this weekend because they're so wildly one-dimensional. I'm like, man, that's so unbelievable to me. Now, the final game I want to talk about, number 10, Oregon beat UCLA 34-31. Chip Kelly against his former school. And it was pretty sad. Oregon had a 34-17 lead, and then UCLA made a big comeback. And UCLA was in the hunt, like driving at the end of the fourth quarter. And on that final drive, their starting quarterback, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, got hurt. And UCLA's backup quarterback came in, Ethan Garbers. He threw a pick, and it kind of sealed the game in favor of Oregon. Oregon won. It was still a good finish. Like, it wasn't horrible, but I did kind of feel a sense of, like, there was more potential for fun in this game that we didn't get to see. I mean, UCLA, again, they had the ball down 34-31, end of the fourth quarter, like 3 minutes left. They're driving, and then starting quarterback DTR gets hurt. I was like, oh, man. I would have loved to see overtime or a touchdown, maybe make Oregon respond. I don't know. It was disappointing, but this game did kind of make me wake up and realize that Chip Kelly has done a good job at UCLA. Not amazing. It's taken a lot of time, but right now, the UCLA football program is better now than when Chip Kelly first got there. And certainly in way better shape than USC right now. So, I don't know. I just credit to Chip Kelly. He's actually, I remember being very critical of him years ago, going, it's taken a long time, it's not working. But I look at USC right now, and I'm like, Chip Kelly ain't that bad. And I just shout out to him, like UCLA is really making progress as a football program. And the way they played against Oregon to me was an example of that. Like, okay, UCLA, they're in the hunt. They've got guys going to the NFL. They're winning games. They are competing heavily with good teams. And it makes me feel really good about what Chip Kelly's doing at UCLA. Now, here's a weird stat line from this game. Oregon running back Travis Dye had 14 carries for only 35 yards, but he had 4 touchdown runs. I'm like, oh my gosh, he actually had 4 touchdown runs on 4 consecutive carries. It was pretty crazy. His longest run, by the way, in this prolific day he had of 4 touchdowns, his longest run was 6 yards. Like, Travis Dye had a weird game where not a lot of yards, but really effective in scoring quite frequently. Yeah, I want to now give you the College Football Week 8 Hall of Shame. Go to YouTube and search, look up for this thing, USC Clock Management Notre Dame, because I'm not going to explain it. It would take too long to explain how all that worked, but go watch the video if you can find it. USC had a total fail with clock management right before halftime against Notre Dame on the road, and it was horrible. I'm like, what do you do? He ran the ball, had no timeouts, and then didn't. I love Keaton Slovis, but he made a mistake. Should have got rid of the ball, thrown it out of bounds. He didn't. Horrible clock management by USC in that end of that game. And then number 2, search for Iowa State taunting on YouTube. Iowa State taunting. You will find a video of, there was a horrible, horrible taunting call made against Iowa State. It took a touchdown off the board, and we're lucky that touchdown being called back and removed didn't end up costing Iowa State the game, because the receiver did not deserve a taunting penalty at all, and it was just a ridiculous, horrible, embarrassing, shameful call made by the ref. So guys, that's all I have. That's my full recap of College Football Week 8. It was a crazy, fun, wild weekend. That 9 overtime game was kind of the highlight of the weekend for me. Not the best weekend ever, Oklahoma didn't play very well. Cincinnati didn't play very well. Georgia had a bye week, but I'm really, really curious to see the rankings come Monday morning.